Today should have been a landmark anniversary in this country. Today is the 50th anniversary of Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court decision recognizing the constitutional right to an abortion. Of course, that right is no longer guaranteed because of the conservative supermajority on the Supreme Court. Because of 5 men and women, young girls in America, have fewer rights than their mothers and grandmothers. And to mark this now solemn moment, Vice President Kamala Harris spoke in Tallahassee, Florida, about what's at stake for women's reproductive health in America.
The right of every woman in every state in this country to make decisions about her own body is on the line. And I've said it before and I will say it again. How dare they?
The vice president also announced at that event that President Biden has issued a new presidential memorandum protecting access to medication abortion nationwide. A short time ago, I spoke with Jennifer Klein, the director of the White House Gender Policy Council, who was with the vice president today for that speech. Jennifer Klein, thank you so much for joining us. Director Klein, let's start with the vice president's speech today. Talk to me about what you and the vice president wanted to convey, especially on such an important day.
Today was supposed to be the day to mark the 50th anniversary of Roe versus Wade, and instead we were commemorating the fact that Roe versus Wade was overturned. So people in this country no longer have the constitutional right to privacy that has long protected the right to get an abortion in this country. So the vice president's speech today was designed to mark this important day. Also to talk about the impact that decision has had across the country. 26 million women live in states where there are now abortion bans in place. There have been, severe impacts on women's health. In addition to their fundamental rights. And the vice president went to Florida today to talk about that and to talk about the path forward and how she and President Biden and the whole Biden-Harris administration will continue to protect fundamental rights and women's health.
You recently told The Atlantic that the White House sees access to abortion medication as, quote, the next battlefront. Can you expand on that? I mean, how does this presidential memorandum that the vice president announced today impact that?
Yeah, so as you probably know, 54% of abortions in this country are medication abortion, and the FDA just recently made clear the guidance that suggests that, or that says that this medication should be available, prescribed by doctors, by telehealth. It can be dispensed by pharmacists either by mail or at a local retail pharmacy. And this was, not the first, but after several times that the FDA has made clear, literally since the year 2000, when they first approved the medication as safe and effective, that they have issued very specific guidance about how this medicine should be able to be available to people who need it across the country. And so what the president, and yet what we've already seen is that states, 22 state attorneys general sent a letter just last week saying that medication abortion should not be available in their states. The governor of Florida has said that medication abortion should not be available in his state and wouldn't be available in his state. And so what the president did in this presidential memorandum that, as you said, the vice president announced today in Florida was to make clear that medication abortion should be available, prescribed by doctors, dispensed by pharmacists, available to the people, the patients who want to take it and need to take it, and asked his cabinet to come forward with recommendations to make sure that can happen, so that people can have access to this legal and safe medication. And the second thing that the presidential memorandum did is that it recognized that pharmacies are now sort of similar to health clinics, at risk. People who are working there or people who are going to pick up their medications need to be safe from any physical violence or harassment when they are getting the medication that they have been prescribed by their doctor.
Last week, you convened legislative leaders from 8 states. You just mentioned Florida, among the others where reproductive rights are on the line, Texas being another, Wisconsin being another. Can you shed some light on what you learned from that meeting? How does the White House plan to help those communities specifically? As you mentioned, the governor of Florida just being one example, challenging this White House initiative through pharmacies. But what else can be done to make sure women have reproductive rights in those states where there is this attempt to restrict those rights?
We really have a sort of three-pronged strategy, and the vice president has really been a leader. She's convened hundreds of state legislators across dozens of states. And so what we did last week was yet another attempt to bring state legislators together. In this case, as you said, it was state legislators who were in states where there are Republicans trying to pass really restrictive either bans or other restrictions on abortion. And so what we've been doing, and we will continue to do, and she, as I said, has really led this work and will continue to do that, is help those state legislators push back and then help state legislators in states that are trying to do proactive things to protect reproductive rights and health, be able to do that. Because as we know, now that there is no longer a constitutional right protected nationwide, the battle has really turned to the states. At the same time, and the president has been really clear about this since the day the Dobbs decision came down, and he spoke to this, just 45 minutes, I think, after the decision, that we would do everything we can in our power as an administration to protect reproductive health. So we will continue to do that. And then the third piece is, of course, again, as he said, the only way to replace a constitutional right is with national legislation. So we will continue to fight to pass legislation to codify and protect the rights that were that existed under Roe. And that's what we will continue to do. And again, the vice president made that point loudly and clearly today in Tallahassee.
Can I get you to reflect just on this moment more broadly speaking? I mean, you have led the White House Gender Policy Council since President Biden first established it in March of 2021. What does it mean to have a president who cares about these issues enough to create this kind of organization in his administration, especially at this turning moment in our country? And what has it meant to you to be the first person to lead it?
I think it's, before this decision came down, it was clear that, we have a ways to go to achieve true gender equality in this country and around the world. And one of the things that I've been particularly privileged to be able to do is work through the council on both global and domestic issues. And, as you said, this decision and what we've seen transpire since it has made really clear that the work is not over. And I think having a president who, first of all, saw fit to have a gender policy council and to prioritize gender equality in the work that we do in the Biden-Harris administration. And then, of course, as we started, to have the first female vice president leading with him, I think has just been, it's been an honor, of course, for me personally, but it is a testament to their commitment and the commitment of so many others across the administration. I mean, the work that we've been doing on gender equality more generally, but also specifically on reproductive health and rights has really been a, as the president likes to call it, a whole of government approach, across agencies, so many members of the cabinet and their staffs and really everyone who's been part of the administration has had an incredibly important role today at this pivotal moment.
Jennifer Klein, Director of the White House Gender Policy Council, thank you so much for your time. I know it has been a busy day, so we greatly appreciate your insights and your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.